So I'm so happy today to introduce onto our podcast Mel Larkings, who is a nutritionist, naturopath and medical herbalist. And we're very lucky to have you here with us today, Mel, so thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, a topic that I think is going to be really popular today that we're talking about is menopause and nutrition, because obviously it happens to everyone who's a female. It's going to happen. It's coming if it's not already happened at some point. So, and it's a whole new area, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of like puberty all over again.
All over again. But it's big. And I think that, I think recently you see more people talking about it, but it's still not a lot of people talking about it. And certainly in the years gone by, no one talked about it. And it was kind of like, it's just this thing that happens that you just deal with. But it's great that people are talking about it more, because I believe the more we talk about it, the more we can understand it. And like you say, it's like puberty, right? It's going to happen. You can't stop it. Yeah. It's coming.
It is another huge reproductive transition that all women must go through.
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, can you talk to us about the differences between, say, perimenopause and menopause? Because I have a lot of friends who are in their kind of early 40s and they're all going, I'm perimenopausal, and they're convinced that's it. Versus, other people who are like, I'm in the menopause. So what's the difference, and how can we tell?
I guess for me, I always really encourage my patients to listen to their bodies and their intuition, because there's no surefire way really to tell that you're in perimenopause. There are blood tests, but they're not always reliable. The thing with perimenopause is it could be years, or it could be for some time. It's the preparation that your body is doing to transition into menopause, and then obviously through that, like to the other side, if you like, or to the end. So that can be bleeding heavier, it can be losing your bleeds, it can be insomnia, it can be, mood stuff. Some people who have never experienced anxiety might get anxiety all of a sudden as their hormones start to adjust. So it's perimenopause, we see it as like the start of menopause.
And then how soon? Is there a set time, or is it always different?
There's set times for diagnosis. So normally, like for example, if you didn't have a bleed for over 12 months, then you are in menopause. Okay. But other than that, there's not a whole lot that we have in terms of certainty for this time frame. Yeah. So like I said, some women will be in perimenopause for a couple of years and they'll be like, haven't had a period in 3 months, and then all of a sudden they're back to their normal bleeds.
Yeah, right.
So it can, shift back and forward. Other women, it can happen quite suddenly. Yeah. And then they're in menopause, and then hopefully that's over as well, coming to the end of that transition. But, I've had patients in their 80s who are still getting hot flushes. No. So it can drag out for some women.
In their 80s, you're kidding.
Yep.
Did they start the menopause late?
Well, I don't know, actually.
Wow.
No, I don't think – I'm thinking of one in particular, and she was mid-50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
Unlucky, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, Mel, there's so many horror stories, I guess, of women talking about being in the menopause and how horrific it can be. Does it always have to be horrific? Are there things that we can do from food and lifestyle to kind of limit the horrificness?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always hopeful that it doesn't have to be horrific. Yeah. It is somewhat reflective of your cycles throughout your life. So if you did have inflammatory cycles, if you do have reproductive disorder, if you had a really hard time with the bleeds themselves, then your menopause may also reflect that, if you like. So, we assume that there's some systemic inflammation left over, there's some pressure on the liver, there's been lots of hormonal fluctuations and imbalances, so that is going to affect how you go through menopause. Yeah. But certainly, just like with a cycle, there's lots that we can do in terms of food and using food as medicine and herbal medicine and supplements and, all that kind of stuff that can help depending on symptoms.
So do you want to talk us through kind of the top symptoms that you see in your clinic and I suppose, ways to mitigate those symptoms?
big one, number one, is hot flushes for sure. So as your body moves through this transition, it will create a lot of heat, and that heat is reflective of your body trying to process the hormones that it no longer requires. So if your liver is under a lot of pressure already, and then you ask it to do this whole big extra kind of job, this extra role that it hasn't had to do before, heat is normally the byproduct of that. That's the way that we see it naturopathically. So overnight is when your liver does a lot of work. So the reason we kind of see a lot of those hot flushes at night is because the liver is overworked and it wakes you up and it causes lots of heat. But women obviously get that throughout the day as well. Mm-hmm. The thing that we do to help that primarily is we assist the liver. We have liver herbs that will help to process those hormones through phase 2 in the liver. We have, things like broccoli sprouts in supplements that will do that as well. You can do that with food, lots of green veggies and leaves and, rocket and spinach and things like that will assist. Lots of water as well. And then obviously if you have hot flushes at night, that's going to affect sleep. So insomnia and poor sleep is probably the next most common thing that I would see. And assisting the liver is also going to help the sleep, which is cool because you can kind of hit two birds with one stone, if you like.
It's fascinating because I never would have thought that the liver would be such a critical organ for the body in menopause. So basically your liver is clearing out the hormones that it no longer uses anymore.
Yeah, that's how we see it naturopathically. Yeah.
And then basically you're doing like a massive detox.
Well, your body is like your liver has a huge job because it's already doing, all the toxins that come into your body. It's already doing all of the other hormones that are going on. And then you're asking it to do this new, big, huge, massive job. So, we think it kind of gets a bit stagnant, a bit clogged up. Yeah. And that heat that's coming back at you is, your liver overloaded.
So if women are watching this and going, this is me, I'm having these hot flushes, this is me, are you very confident that if they focus on the liver, through eating the right foods, the liver cleanse and also supplements, that they will see a marked improvement?
In my experience, yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Food alone might not be enough, but definitely herbal medicine, supplements, using therapeutic doses. Yeah,
incredible. So we've got insomnia, and we've got hot flushes.
Yes.
What are some of the other biggies?
Oh, the big one that I see that women are probably experiencing at different times throughout their whole reproductive life is libido. Mm-hmm. We have this huge pressure on us to have a libido throughout huge transitional times in our life, like post-pregnancy is massive. I have lots of women come even a year or two after birth saying that their libido is still not back, and then that is a huge complaint during menopause as well. Yeah. When your body and your sex hormones are going through these massive changes, like it's a protective mechanism. The last thing that it wants to do is procreate. So it's a protective mechanism.
No more babies.
Yeah. And so it's a really hard one to treat because I'm basically telling your body, the opposite of what it's going through. I'm trying to convince it that it's safe and that it's okay and that, you can still have sex basically. And the thing is the purpose of sex is to have babies. And so it's a natural thing to not want to have intercourse during these fluctuations. Yeah.
And is there anything that women can do from a supplementation or from a food to kind of counteract that?
I think we focus on the liver, we focus on the gut, but keeping your general hormonal state balanced and well as much as possible, keeping you energetic and getting good sleep, because if you're not sleeping, of course you're going to not feel like doing any extracurriculars. Yeah.
It's funny, since we've been doing Zing Wellbeing, one of the big things other than gut health has been sleep, has been, a real eye-opener for me because, I always knew sleep was important, but just really understanding how important it is in the body's health is quite unbelievable. It feels like we're not giving sleep enough focus. Like I think we talked on the last podcast about, we were all in bed and we've got our phones and our phones are lighting up everything. It's just not conducive to a good sleep, is it?
No, life is not conducive to a good sleep anymore. With a flick of a switch, we've got our light on, that stops the melatonin production, which would normally happen with the sunrise and not beforehand. And, you know, that melatonin starts to be produced when it's dark, when the sun goes down. So, yeah, we're kind of messing with those natural hormones. But then when the sex hormones are out of whack, that's going to affect your sleep hormones as well, and your stress hormones and everything. You know, they have this relationship with each other that needs to remain within balance, basically.
So basically, from a hormone basis going through the menopause, it's really critical to try and get that homeostasis, I guess, of the balance, so everything can work correctly.
Yeah, totally. So anything you do in terms of nutrition and meditation, yoga, sleep, exercise, all that stuff is going to assist in just maintaining your health and well-being throughout that change.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we all take extra care of ourselves when we're pregnant because we know that our body requires.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and we just don't do that for ourselves in other transitional states. Like we don't look after our young girls in puberty, and we don't look after our women in menopause for some reason.
On that note, when we are in pregnancy, yes, we have, you know, we get blood tests, we, you know, check how much iron we've got. We're doing all these things for making sure that our levels remain adequate, because obviously we're growing a baby. Is there something like that we should be doing in menopause?
Yeah, definitely. As you go through menopause, there's risk factors that you may have never had before, and that includes mental health, but it includes like bones as well. We know that you're at a higher risk of osteoporosis. You will lose a lot of your protective estrogens. So, you know, there's risk factors there that, I mean, that could be, it could be breaking bones for, you know, bone fragility, but it could also be like even collagen and stuff like that, or you lose your flexibility, or, you know, different things that women might not even associate with menopause. Yeah. And it does put extra pressure on your excretion organs, and it does change your microbiome. So these are all kind of things that, probably could be looked after better.
And when you say that, you know, we're losing that estrogen, is there anything we can, you know, replace it with?
We do phytoestrogens. So phytoestrogens are estrogens from food.
So like soy?
Soy. Flax seeds have lignans in them that do it as well. I think it's just, I don't know that therapeutically it's going to be enough, but we do treat hot flushes with phytoestrogens sometimes.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. It's fascinating. And so we've got hot flushes, we've got libido, we've got inability to sleep because of everything going on. Is there any other big things that really cause problems over this time?
Yeah, I do. When you go into mental health, I do see a lot of anxiety, depression, and then also women tend to lose their confidence and become quite irritable as well.
That's actually a normal month, isn't it?
So it's a really bad period. Yeah, it's like really bad PMS.
Yeah.
But I think the depression in particular can be really debilitating, especially for some reason if you've never experienced that before. You haven't developed the same coping mechanisms as someone who has had anxiety or depression their whole life. So to have that thrown at you, maybe mid-50s, and have to learn how to deal with this whole, you know, new brain essentially, and the way that you think about things, the way you see the world, the way that you interact with people is completely changed, can be really debilitating for women.
And do we know why, like, that anxiety and depression does increase?
I think it's to do with the hormonal shifts primarily. Maybe if you're not sleeping, that's going to impact heavily, or if you're not getting good quality sleep, you know, that's going to impact heavily as well. But
wow. And so, you know, a lot of women will take HRT over this period because they think there's no other way. Do you think that HRT is the only way to manage these symptoms, or do you think it's a combination of both, like from your experience?
I think that everyone should do what they feel most comfortable with, and I think that everyone has options. Like this, HRT is not the only option. I think that there are options. Yeah. HRT is one of them, but certainly I see patients who don't want to do HRT, and I treat them naturopathically with herbs and supplements. So
and get a great result.
Get a result. It's not always 100%. It's not always like I can fix everything, but certainly there are different herbs and stuff that can treat varied symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, you know, we were talking a different time about the importance of protein when you're going through either perimenopause or menopause, because things are changing so much. is there, like, if we're having, for example, I'm making this up, but if we're having 100 grams of protein for a meal pre-menopause, how much should we increase that during the menopause?
I think that, again, as a nutritionist, I don't work as much to numbers as a dietitian, but certainly having good quality sources of protein throughout menopause is going to assist. But that goes for all macronutrients too. You probably need a little bit more fat to help out with what your hormones are doing, because fats are essential for that. If you are experiencing insomnia or anxiety, fat's also going to help your brain and your brain health.
Great.
So making sure that nutrition is sound throughout all these different phases of our life, and we will need different nutritionals throughout all these different phases in our life, is key. Making sure we're getting everything we need.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like you said, that could come down to a blood test, getting the calcium tested, doing bone mineral density, doing vitamin D, doing iron. All those kind of things is still really important throughout menopause.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned the word fat there, but a lot of people will say that during the menopause they gain weight and it's harder to lose it. Is that because our metabolism is slowing down, or is it because we're tired and we're not feeling we can move as much, or is it a combination of everything?
Maybe. I mean, fatigue's definitely something that we see. If your liver's your main weight loss organ as well. So if your liver is under pressure from all of these changes, then you might find that you maintain extra weight throughout the period. Not the period, but this period.
Yeah.
Not having a period anymore. So again, we're supporting the liver. The other thing is you cannot lose weight if you don't have enough good fats coming in. It will be really hard for you to lose weight if your calorie intake is too low or if you don't have good fats coming into the diet. You need fat to lose fat.
Fascinating. Tell me about that. You need fat to lose fat, because there is such a preconception that to lose weight you need to reduce fat.
No, not good fats.
Yeah.
Not good fats. I think as we get older, as women or men, you do need less calories overall. But that means, I guess, that you need to make sure you're getting all your nutrients in. We're primitive beings, essentially, and we're still on the flight or fight thing. We're still think we're running from a panther, all that kind of thing. So if there's no food available, your body will store. And so if it's not getting everything that it needs to feel safe and sound, then you will hold on to all the extras. So make sure you're getting all the macronutrients, protein, fat, carbs. We never really have to worry about carbs. But fat in particular for us as women is key for sound hormonal balance, and that includes through menopause.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
And for weight.
Yeah,
balance.
Exactly. Now, we've got, menopause meal plans at our program, and obviously food is a big thing. Is there any foods that you want to call out and say, you know what, these are good foods to have menopause, and hey, here's a few you should try and avoid?
Yeah, well, the greens, for sure, I've already mentioned. Anything green is going to be great for your liver. Lots and lots of water. I think fatty fish in particular is really nice because it's going to be feeding that brain. It's going to be stabilizing hormones and helping them do what they need to do. It's great for heart health, bone health, all that kind of stuff that we start worrying about as we go through that change. So greens, fish, fruit and veg for sure in general, making sure that we're getting all those beautiful, colourful vegetables in our diet. That's the foods that we want to be having.
If someone doesn't have fish, because, I'll do see feedback where people will say, I don't eat fish, and there's lots of fish in your meal plans. What's an alternative? Or is there one? And how do they kind of replace, I guess?
I think definitely eggs, seeds and nuts are going to be good, but maybe a nice fatty lamb.
Yeah.
That would be, lamb's meant to be one of the kinder meats to your liver.
Okay.
And it's got all that juicy, lovely fat. So if you can
lamb's
get
great.
Good quality lamb, where I live, there's some lamb that feeds on olives. So they're on an olive farm. So when you cook that meat, it's so deliciously olivey,
Oh, wow.
So the thing about fat is it will store toxins. Yeah. So we want our meat to be happy and well fed and all that kind of stuff when we're eating these meats. So you can maybe swap it for some of those options.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think that from this session today, what I'm taking, the big thing I'm taking out of this is the liver.
Yes.
Is so critical, and and I didn't know how critical it was over this period. So but would you say that over this period, irrespective of it being now, you should look after the liver the same way before, during and after?
Yeah, for sure. Like with any hormonal imbalance, even with endometriosis or PCOS or painful periods, dysmenorrhea, any of that, for sure we look after the liver. But menopause tends to be something where we really focus on it.
Yeah.
There are other disorders like acne and skin, eczema, psoriasis, stuff like that, where we try to focus on the liver as well.
Yeah.
But menopause tends to be a big one for the liver.
And when we're through the menopause and we've come through it and we're post-menopause, is it a similar advice as well with nutrients, liver and all the stuff we've talked about today, or does it change?
Well, I think you probably don't need as much liver support once you're through, but it's not like you're eating any bad foods. Definitely need foods with higher calcium content to be mindful of that, which isn't necessarily our dairy like we've been taught. So sesame seeds and spinach and all that kind of stuff is nice and high in calcium. Make sure that you are getting those bone checks and the weight bearing exercise where you can. And vitamin D is really important.
Yeah, amazing. And didn't I hear you say a fact a while ago about there's more calcium in dried apricots than something else?
Probably the dried apricots and sesame seeds. More calcium than dairy a lot of the time.
That's amazing, isn't it? That's incredible, because dairy is everywhere, right? And if you are dairy free or you're trying to reduce dairy, it's great to know that you can still get those high levels of calcium in other
plant
kind of
foods.
Amazing. Sure. Well, thank you so much. It's so interesting, and obviously, as we know, every woman goes through it, so it's better to be educated and know.
Absolutely.
And I think that the big thing for me is liver. Do that liver love.
Yeah, do that liver love.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks so much, Mel.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.